Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're looking at something I think you've all been thinking about these days, which is the future of social media. And, we've got some really interesting articles here. This one from Chronically Online Magazine called Still Posting Post-Death really stood out to me. Because, some of these statistics are just mind-blowing. Like, are you ready for this? They're predicting that there will soon be more digital twins than actual humans online. And get this, the whole digital immortality market, it's expected to be worth like $527 billion by 2030. $527 billion. Are we all going to be uploading our consciousness to the cloud or something soon?
Well, not exactly, but the way we're interacting with the deceased online is definitely changing.
Yeah.
It's not just about like memorial pages anymore. It's more about scheduled posts,
Yeah.
AI-powered likenesses, even holographic versions of people. Is kind of like they're still around even after they're gone.
So you're saying it's not just leaving a profile behind. It's like creating a whole interactive legacy. The article even mentioned William Shatner creating those interactive holographic images of himself.
Yeah, you could actually have a conversation with a holographic William Shatner even after.
And it's not just for celebrities anymore. Companies like Storyfile, they're making this tech available to everybody. Imagine like being able to have a conversation with your great-grandparents.
Yeah.
Hear their stories, like in their own words.
Wow, that's wild. It's like having a living history right in your living room. But how does all this work? What's the technology behind it?
Well, a lot of it is powered by AI. They take existing videos, audio recordings, writings, and use it all to create like a digital personality. Think of it like a really advanced chatbot.
Yeah.
But it can learn and evolve.
Okay, I'm with you. But that brings up a whole other question. Control. Like, who owns these digital likenesses? What's to stop people from misusing them? Yeah, that's where things get a little tricky. Legally, digital assets are still kind of a gray area. Only 29 states have laws in place for dealing with them after someone passes away.
Oh, wow.
But some companies are trying to figure it out, like Apple. They have that digital legacy program, so you can designate someone to access certain data after you're gone.
But it's limited, right? You can't control how your digital twin might be used in the future.
Exactly, and that's a worry for sure. Like, what if someone uses your likeness to endorse something you'd never support? Or what if they create a version of you that says or does things that completely go against your values?
It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it? Is there any way to protect ourselves from being digitally exploited after we're gone?
That's what everyone is trying to figure out. Some experts say you should create a super detailed digital estate plan, outlining how you want your online stuff handled. Others are pushing for stricter laws and regulations to protect our digital identities.
So it seems like we're still in the early stages of all this.
Ah.
It's a lot to think about. But let's shift gears for a sec. The article also mentioned digital twins and how they're about to outnumber real people online. Are we all going to have digital doppelgangers running around in cyberspace soon?
It's kind of heading that way. A digital twin, it's basically a digital copy of you, powered by AI. Think of it like a virtual assistant, but like way more powerful.
So like a Super Siri or Alexa,
Yeah.
but modeled after me.
Exactly. And the things they could do are just, it's mind-blowing. Imagine a digital twin that manages your schedule, books your travel, even gives you personalized financial advice.
Wow.
Or what about a digital twin of a doctor that could like diagnose you and recommend treatment?
That's incredible. But it also sounds kind of invasive. Like how much access would these digital twins have to our information?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. The more data they have, the better they work. But then you have to think about privacy and security. Who controls all that info? How can we make sure it's used responsibly?
It's a tough balance. So digital twins are about convenience and personalization, but with potential privacy risks. But what about the digital immortality part? Will these digital twins live on after we die?
Yeah, that's possible. Imagine a digital twin that could still interact with your loved ones, share memories, offer comfort. Or a digital twin that could run your business or manage your investments, even after you're gone.
That's a lot to think about.
Uh-huh.
It's like stepping into a sci-fi movie. But the article said the cost of creating these digital twins is pretty low. Like Hereafter AI offers plans starting at $49 a month.
Yeah, that's right. And because it's so affordable, experts think this market is going to explode. It's not just for rich people or tech geniuses anymore. Almost anyone can create a digital twin of themselves or a loved one.
And that's what's so crazy about all of this. It's not some futuristic fantasy. It's something that could affect all of us really soon.
Absolutely. And it raises a ton of questions, ethical questions, questions we as a society need to start thinking about now. Like, what does it mean to create digital versions of ourselves? How will this change our relationships? with each other, with the deceased. What does it even mean to be human in a world where digital immortality is becoming more and more possible?
Whoa, those are some big questions.
Yeah.
It feels like we're on the edge of something huge, but we don't really know what it all means yet.
And that's why it's so important to have this conversation. We need to look at it from all sides and figure out how we want to navigate this.
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the choices we make, the rules we create, and the values we choose.
Exactly, because the future of digital immortality, it's up to us.
Okay, that feels like a good place to take a breath. We've covered a lot: holograms, digital twins, ethical dilemmas, but there's still so much more to explore.
Definitely. We've only scratched the surface. In the next part of this deep dive, let's look at how digital immortality could change the entertainment industry. Like, could deceased celebrities become even bigger stars than they were when they were alive?
And we'll talk about something called manipulative errors. It's where people are using mistakes to prove they're human. In a world of AI, it's going to be a wild ride, so buckle up.
So welcome back. We've been talking about this whole digital immortality thing.
We have. And, one of the things that keeps coming up in these articles is the impact on the entertainment industry. Like, imagine a world where Elvis never leaves Vegas. Marilyn Monroe is the face of, like, every beauty brand. And James Dean stars in new movies. I mean, it's exciting and creepy all at the same time, right?
Yeah, it is. Still Posting Post-Death talks about how deceased celebs and influencers could actually become bigger stars than they were when they were alive. I mean, their digital likenesses could be used in anything. Movies, TV shows, commercials, you name it.
Right.
And they'd never age. They wouldn't get into scandals. They'd always be available.
So it's like they become these perfect, eternally marketable icons. But what about the opportunities for new talent? It's like they're competing with ghosts.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's something the industry is definitely thinking about. How do you balance the money you could make from these digital icons with a need to support new talent? Some people think it could make things even more competitive for up-and-coming artists.
Right, because now you're not just competing with other actors or musicians. You're competing with the digital ghosts of legends, like trying to outshine Elvis. But what about the ethics of all this? Is it really okay to keep making money from someone's image after they're gone, even if it's a digital version?
That's a big question, and there's no easy answer. Some say it's exploitive, especially if the person didn't agree to it before they died. But others say it's a way to honor their legacy, keep their work alive for new generations.
So it's about intent then. Like, if it's done respectfully and to preserve their legacy, maybe it's okay. But if it's just about making a quick buck, that feels wrong.
I agree. And it brings up the question of who controls these likenesses, the estate, the family, some company. What if they disagree about how it should be used?
Yeah, it's a legal mess. Like we said before, the laws haven't really kept up. But you mentioned something earlier about digital twins being used to honor someone's legacy. That doesn't have to be bad, right?
Right. The article mentioned UNESCO and stuff, using AI to preserve historical testimonies and cultural heritage. Imagine being able to talk to a Holocaust survivor, hear their story firsthand.
Wow.
That's powerful. It's like bringing history to life in a way we've never been able to before.
It makes me think about my own grandparents. I'd love to be able to ask them questions, hear their stories.
And that's what's so cool about this technology. It can connect us to the past in a really personal way. It could change education, let students interact with historical figures, hear different perspectives.
It's like a time machine. But it also makes me wonder, what happens to our understanding of death and grief if we can still talk to loved ones after they're gone?
That's a really deep question. Does it make it harder to let go? Or could it be a new kind of closure, a way to continue a relationship?
It's blurring the lines, for sure, between reality and simulation, life and the digital afterlife. And it reminds me of something else from the article, manipulative errors. What's that all about?
Well, yeah, this is where things get interesting. AI is getting so good, it's hard to tell what's real and what's made by a machine. So some people are purposely making mistakes in their work to show that they're human.
So instead of trying to be perfect online, they're messing up on purpose, adding glitches, doing things AI wouldn't do, like a digital version of Bedhead, proof you're a real person.
Exactly. The article talked about things like putting your thumb over the camera lens or adding a paint trip to your art. It's like saying, hey, I'm human, I make mistakes, that's what makes me unique.
It's like rebelling against all the digital perfection.
Yeah.
What would you do to prove you're not a bot?
I think it'd just be spontaneous. Do random things. Maybe write a poem with made-up words. Or paint with my eyes closed. Just let go of control.
I like that. It's about celebrating the imperfections, the things that make us human.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, authenticity. When AI can create anything, it's the human touches that become even more important.
It's like those little mistakes become a badge of honor.
Yeah.
But does that change our expectations of perfection in the real world too?
That's a good question. Could it lead to a more accepting society where we celebrate differences instead of trying to be perfect? Or will it just create a new kind of perfect imperfection?
It's like we're always chasing this idea of what's real and authentic, online and offline.
I think that's part of being human. We're always changing, adapting, redefining ourselves.
And that's what makes this whole digital immortality thing so fascinating. It's not just about technology, it's about what it means to be human in a digital world.
Absolutely. It's about our values, our relationships, our legacies, our understanding of life and death.
Wow, that's a lot. But it feels like we're starting to see the connections, the need to be real, the ethical questions about digital likenesses, the potential for connection and education, the blurring of life and death. It's all connected.
It is. And it's only going to get more complicated as technology keeps changing.
Which is why we need to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
And asking the hard questions.
Exactly. Because in the end, the future of digital immortality is up to us.
Okay. I think that's a good place to pause for a minute. We've talked about the entertainment industry, manipulative errors, and some of the bigger questions this technology brings up. But there's one more thing we need to talk about. The practical side of things.
Right. Digital estate planning, the right to be forgotten. What happens to our online stuff after we die? Who controls it? How can we make sure our wishes are followed?
Those are some important questions, ones everyone should be thinking about. So join us for the final part of this deep dive, as we figure out how to navigate the digital afterlife. All right, so we're back. For the final part of our deep dive into digital immortality, we've talked about the amazing possibilities, the ethical challenges, even how people are using art to express themselves in this new world. But now let's get real. What about the practical side of managing our digital afterlife?
Yeah, we can't just upload our minds and call it a day. There are real world things to think about, like digital estate planning.
Right.
All those accounts you have, all that data you create, photos, videos. It's a lot to manage even when you're alive.
Yeah, it is. And it's only going to get more complicated as we create more and more digital stuff. So where do we even start?
We got to start thinking about your digital legacy. Like, what do you want to happen to your online stuff after you're gone? Do you want your accounts memorialized, deleted, given to someone else?
Yeah, and how do we actually make that happen? I remember the article said only 29 states have laws about digital assets after death. That doesn't seem like a lot, considering how much of our lives are online now.
You're right. The legal system is still trying to catch up, so you got to be proactive. Start by writing down your wishes, just like you would with a regular will. Say which accounts you want closed, which ones you want someone to manage, and what you want done with your data.
Okay, but what about access? Like, how do we make sure the people we choose can actually do what we want? Passwords, security questions. It's a headache, even when you're trying to access your own accounts.
That's where it gets tricky. Some platforms like Google and Facebook have legacy contact options, so you can choose someone to manage your account after you're gone. But it's different on every platform, and not everyone offers it.
So it's kind of a mess right now. But what if someone wants their entire digital footprint erased? Is there a way to guarantee that?
That's where the right to be forgotten comes in. It's a legal thing that lets you request to have your personal data removed from online platforms. But making sure it happens after you're gone is tough, especially when your data is all over the place.
Yeah, and then there's the whole AI-generated content thing. Even if you get rid of your own data, someone could still create a digital twin of you and use it to make new content.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
And legal experts are still trying to figure out how to deal with it. How do you control someone's likeness when it can be digitally recreated?
It seems like there's so much potential for abuse, and it probably costs a fortune to protect yourself from all this.
It definitely adds a whole new level to estate planning. You might need lawyers who specialize in digital rights and AI, which gets expensive.
So peace of mind in the digital afterlife comes with a price tag. But with all this talk about data and legal stuff, are we missing something bigger?
What do you mean?
Well, the article mentioned it briefly, but I think it's important. The emotional side of all this. Are we so focused on saving our digital selves, that we forget about letting go.
Are we holding on to digital ghosts instead of accepting the natural way of things?
It makes me think of those ancient Egyptians and their crazy burial rituals. Were they trying to be immortal too? Or was it about honoring the dead and helping them move on?
It's interesting to think about how different cultures have dealt with death throughout history, and now technology is giving us new ways to explore these questions.
And maybe that's the point. Digital immortality isn't just about keeping our data. It's about how we choose to remember and honor people. It's about creating legacies that mean something. Legacies that reflect our values, our passions, our hopes for the future.
Well said. It reminds us that even in a tech-driven world, the human part is still the most important.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought. If you could live on digitally, what parts of yourself would you want to save? And what message would you leave for future generations?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It makes you think about what really matters, what makes you you, and what you want to pass on.
It reminds us that digital immortality is about more than just technology. It's about the stories we tell, the connections we make, and the impact we have on the world.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into digital immortality. It's been a really thought-provoking conversation, and we hope you'll keep thinking about these things as technology keeps changing.
And remember, the future isn't something that just happens, it's something we create. So let's create a digital future that honors our past, embraces our humanity, and inspires future generations.